bet you missed us. We know we've been 3 weeks without a recording. Let's put it down to excess alcohol and a dodgy cruise in the Mediterranean. Anyway, Mark, what's on the pod?
From Moose Knuckle to Vancouver, we ask what's in a name.
Does Jailhouse rock or suck?
Tourists ruin my holiday. Now I'm going to ruin theirs.
All that and much, much more in the latest no-holds-barred edition of the almost 30-minute quiz show.
Hello everyone, welcome to the almost 30-minute podcast. My dad's just popped out to make himself a cocktail. He will be back shortly. In the meantime, I thought I'd talk to you about Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson.
Hey!
What?
Put down that microphone
Oh, come on.
Go back to your room.
No, please let me... Oh.
Oh, thank you. Normal service is resumed.
He just picked up the microphone.
You can't put it down for 2 minutes and the little bugger picks up the microphone. Bed.
Oh, poor guy. Don't cry. Oh, he's crying.
Aw.
Poor little kid. Mark, it's been too long.
It has, but that's because we've been doing things, travelling, but we're back together.
Well, I've not been travelling. You have. You've been on your fancy boat.
Raw we. We'll talk more about that in a bit.
Okay.
And this is a very special show
Because?
we have a live audience.
Oh, yes. Audience. How many of them were there?
And by say live audience, we couldn't afford a babysitter tonight, and our friend has popped round to pour the drinks. So if I slur, at the moment I'm drinking a cocktail through a piece of spaghetti because we've run out of straws because there are no plastic straws left on Earth.
So I put this cocktail together, and it is made, I've got to remember, from Pimm's, Drambuie, and iced tea, lemon iced tea.
It's actually really nice, although with the pasta straw, it's a bit carb heavy.
Do you think we should put it on our website and other social media platforms? We could put out the recipe.
Yeah, I'm a bit behind on the website, but anyway.
Yeah, we have a website, which you are all very welcome to join.
And we're on all good forms of social media, but as I've been...
We don't have a website.
No, that's why. Hence the thing. Would you like to put it on our website? Oh, we're a little behind on development there. Keep up.
I'm drinking as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, the other thing about having guests over tonight is we've had a couple before we started. So we are going to have to keep this to less than 30 minutes just because I don't think we'll be able to make sense. If we are making sense now, in about 25 minutes.
I'd like to thank our sponsors, and I'd also like to thank Thatcher's Gold for making an excellent cider.
Margaret Thatcher's got. Is this like a Tory party?
No, okay, all right. Moving swiftly on. What we do on this particular podcast is, in case you've not heard it before, we ask you 4 or 5 questions. We would like you to try to answer them, and then we will answer them in some detail, hopefully injecting a little bit of humour as we go along. So, do you want to start us off, Mark?
Should we have a quick round of applause from the live audience before we do the questions?
Oh,
audience.
They're very polite.
They are a rowdy lot, though.
Okay, so go for it. Question
number one. What is the name of the yellow dessert topping usually made from lemon?
Question number 2. What is the most visited tourist city in Which is the most visited tourist city in 2019?
Yeah, sorry about that. I told you drink. Drink. Question 3. Of what Canadian town is Jimmy Kimmel the honorary mayor?
I can't read your writing.
What do...
Oh, thank you. It's question number 4.
Yeah, you do 5.
Okay.
What do Tupac Shakur, Sid Vicious, and Mark Chapman have in common?
I've no idea what Tupac Shakur is.
Well, we'll answer that as well.
It sounds like it's a place on the Indian subcontinent. And question number 5. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
All this and more will be revealed after we don't have any sponsors.
No, we just have a drum roll.
Okay, drum roll, please. Round of applause. I think we're done with that gag.
Welcome back to the almost 30-minute quiz show with him, Mark, and me, David. Mark, question number 1. What is the name of the yellow dessert topping usually made from lemon?
Is it cheese?
You can probably have lemony cheeses.
Wasn't there a book, Lemony Snicket?
There was.
It's some form of horrible jizzy-like jam. What's it called?
I actually have some made by Chivers. Is it Chivers or Chivers?
No, that's the whiskey. Chivers Regal.
No, but there's a company that makes jam.
Chivers Jelly, yeah.
Chivers, who make lemon,
Curd.
Curd, as in curds and whey.
So we're going to spend 5 minutes talking about jam.
Now, well,
Fantastic.
you wrote this question. Why on earth did you write this question, Mark? 'Cause I've
Well-
already forgotten. I think the cider's getting to me.
Well, we've tried to avoid the subject of Donald Trump because there's so much news that he creates every minute that he's sat on the toilet on his Twitter account. But this week and last week, or it's been 3 weeks since we've been here, the whole situation with the Kurds and America abandoning them and leaving them to Turkey to invade. And I'm sorry to our Turkish listeners, and I will try not to take too much of a standpoint here, but really, America leaving an ally behind like that. And what was it Donald Trump said? They're like two naughty school children that needed to fight it out while 1 million people are displaced. I think our friend Donald has reached new levels of batshit mental.
I am going to partly play devil's advocate and partly actually believe in what I'm saying. I as you know, Mark, I'm spent much of my life studying the Middle East and
I'm sorry for that
so on.
slurping noise. It's my spaghetti straw.
By the way, I like what you did with the Kurds and
Yeah.
But all of us in the West are making out as though the Kurds are this united, amazing, West-loving group of people. That's not the case. We're talking about an incredibly diverse group in the Middle East that have been separated amongst 4 or 5 countries over the last 100 years. Not all of them are pro-Western, not all of them play nice, and there are, and I'm not taking necessarily the Turkish standpoint here, but there are some amongst the Kurds who are particularly nasty. Now, they are a minority, and most of the Kurds are fun-loving, pro-Western, and so on. But let's not put all of these people into the one basket, because some of them actually are something of a threat.
Don't argue with that point, especially I think as the Turks call them the PKK. But you know, this is the almost 30-minute quiz show. So if we try and explain what's going on in Syria, this would be called the almost 30-week quiz show.
The almost 30 years war.
100 years war, even.
There was a 30 years war as well.
How long did it last?
About 17.
Because the 100 Years' War lasted about 117.
117.
Yeah. I get that, but one of the constants over the Syrian war has been the fight against ISIS, and the Kurds have basically done most of the groundwork in Syria to make sure that ISIS, who are an evil, vile terrorist group that throw people off buildings, that behead people, you know, were finished off. I mean, there was Western support in the air and lots of bombing, but the Kurds were very much part of that alliance.
And we should say at that point, tens of thousands of Kurds were fighting against ISIS.
Yeah. There were, I think, more Kurds there than there certainly were Western troops on the ground.
By a factor of 5 or 10 at least.
And I understand what the American point is, you know, America first, let's not have people lose their lives for a war that's on the other side of the world that doesn't benefit. You know, I understand that. You know, if I'm an American parent with a child in the army, I would be upset if they were there. But the answer of saying they weren't with us in Normandy on Twitter really just takes it to a new level of stupidity. You know, firstly, it doesn't understand that the Kurds did fight with the Americans in World War I. But secondly, it's just, you know, thanks for everything. I'll stab you in the back on the way out.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with all of this was, certainly as far as the public is concerned, that it was done from one day to the next. It was just so incredibly swift, rather than there being notice and so on. Now, whether that was tactical or not, I don't know. But it did seem to be somewhat cruel, the way in which it was done.
And this, at the same time, he's half abandoned the Saudis, made friends with the Saudis. One of their biggest oil terminals gets bombed, and he's like, "Yeah, well, we'll deal with some sanctions." I mean, he's put sanctions on Turkey and lifted them in the space of 3 days. And then there was a case of an American diplomat or a spouse of an American diplomat who ran over somebody and killed them in the country. He invites the family over and says to them when they arrive, "Would you like to meet the woman that killed your son? She's in the next room." You know, the man was never stable, although he calls himself a stable genius. But I mean, he's just plumbed to new depths.
As you know, I like to have the final words on these things. So I was listening to a podcast from the Centre for Strategic and International Studies a little bit earlier today, the CSIS, especially on the cider.
You're missing an F. C for Centre for.
Yeah, there was no F for full.
No effing.
The CSIS were making the point, several experts they spoke to were making the point that the biggest winners in all of this most probably are the Russians, although they will be 10% concerned about the possibility of new ISIS attacks on Russian territory. And the other two biggest winners would be Assad, who's gassed his own people, and Iran and Hezbollah. And that is extremely worrying. And for me, that is the key point in all of this, that the bad guys are feeling empowered.
Question number 2. What is the most visited tourist? This still doesn't sound right.
Which?
Which is the most visited tourist city? Which is. Oh, it's still 2000.
Is.
Anyway, get on with the question, Mark.
So far in 2019.
So far in 2019, which is the most visited tourist city?
Look, the obvious type of place to point to is going to be...
Sorry.
You put your bloody cocktail down.
It's really difficult through a straw. I mean, it's made of spaghetti. Although apparently, if you suck through like a really tight space, it increases the effect on the brain.
Yeah, there's less.
So I'm gone by question 5 at this rate.
There's less oxygen coming in. I should be. It's a whole new career as
Tourist city.
Oh, cut me
Which
off.
is the most visited one? Come on.
You would think New York, Paris, London.
You've got 2 of the top 3 there, but you're missing the top one.
Which is
It's in Asia.
Bombay, Mumbai,
No. Bit further east, I think.
Tokyo,
Bit further west.
Oh, God.
It's like the Golden Shark.
Shanghai,
I'm lost now. It's in Thailand.
west, southwest from there. To Bangkok.
Bangkok, yes.
Yeah.
Apparently, ladyboys and ping pong balls are the best tourist destination in
Well,
2019.
if you think about it, it does actually make sense. Not that this is what we're going to talk about, but if you've got Phuket and all those other places so close, and it's cheap to fly to, it makes a lot of sense.
It's not that cheap, though. I mean, Paris, London, well, I suppose where you are. But if you're in the States, if you're in Africa, if you're... it's cheap from Asia.
Right.
But,
Okay.
Europe tends to be the major tourist hub. And
Let me use that as a vehicle for getting into a rant. I think it's been clear over the first 4 podcasts that we've run that
averaging around 30 minutes.
I am...
The average 30 minutes.
You've had too much to drink. That I'm something of a green environmentalist, whatever.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were a ranter.
The impact that tourism is having around the world is extremely disturbing. Certainly has a major effect, and I'm not just talking here about air miles, on issues of the ozone layer and so on, global warming. But what I really wanted to say was not that. If you go to Barcelona or Rome or Venice or London or Bangkok in peak season, please, please, please don't complain that you didn't have a good time because there were too many tourists.
Oh, okay. I'm actually going to Barcelona in 3 weeks, in theory.
Well, 3 weeks is when? What time of year?
Mid-November.
So first of all, you're not going as a tourist.
But before that, I will be in Amman.
What's his name?
Ha ha.
You go to Barcelona in November,
Yes.
right? There will be a lot of people in the streets if you're going to the tourist
Especially
areas.
Champions League time. There'll be a lot of football supporters going
Football
there.
supporters.
Coming from everywhere other than Barcelona.
Also, you find that city breaks in Europe are pretty much alive all year round, but predominantly at the weekend. But if you go to a place like Barcelona on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in November, you're not going to have such problems. But when you've got the numbers that we were looking at, 15, 20 million people visiting a small area like Venice,
Yeah.
it is absolutely impossible. First of all, think about the environmental implications. If you are going to go, and obviously with Venice, which we know is sinking into the sea, inch by inch, year by year, you
It's
can
all those
see
people
it.
on it. It just...
Part of the problem, without doubt, is the number of tourists, the number of hotels that have to be built to cater for these people. And what you're finding now is in a place like Amsterdam, which is interestingly not in the top 19 list.
Which is a surprise, because every time I've been there, it's not every time. When I've been there, it's crowded.
Amsterdam and the Dutch government are now discouraging. There's actually a policy of discouraging people to go to Amsterdam. They are placing a very heavy tax on cruise ships. I think it's $50 per person on a cruise ship if you dock in Amsterdam because they're saying we cannot cope with the tourists. The tourists are having a bad experience. And if anything, the reputation of a place like Amsterdam, which is trying to clean up issues of the red light district and so on, is still suffering because of the over-tourism of the region. We'll go to a break. Mark asked me to mention the Canadian election. Well done, Mr. Trudeau, but slightly less well done than last time around. Anyway, on to question number 3.
Are the audience still here, or have they died?
The live audience, are you here? One of them's actually too busy looking at his phone and drinking cider.
And he's ordered a pizza, so we're going to have to...
What pizzas are we getting?
I think mushroom and onion?
Nothing with bacon on?
No, because you're a vegetarian.
Pepperoni?
No,
Pineapple?
Oh, pineapple.
Sardines?
Ooh, anchovies.
Oh no, I never liked anchovies even
Okay.
when I didn't. Anyway,
Question 3.
number 3. Of which Canadian town is Jimmy Kimmel, I don't even know who Jimmy Kimmel is, the honorary mayor?
You don't know who Jimmy Kimmel is?
He's a TV bloke, but I've got no idea.
Yeah, I think he's
Late
one
night.
of the late night
I'm
American...
faster.
Did he take over from Johnny Carson or someone like that?
Johnny Carson.
Or the one who took over Who took over from Johnny?
J.R. Ewing.
No, not Jimmy Fallon. There was somebody in between
Well,
with like a chin like Jimmy Hill, big head. Jay Leno, that was it.
Well done. Wow, look
Thank
at that.
you, the audience.
The audience, give yourselves a round of applause. Anyway, moving swiftly along since we've only got 4
Oh,
minutes
is it
left
Jimmy
on this
Fallon?
section.
Oh, sorry.
Have you answered the question yet?
You haven't asked.
Of which I did. Of which Canadian town is Jimmy Kimmel the honorary mayor?
I know this one because we
Oh,
spent so
spit it
long.
out.
What, the spaghetti? Because we are in a hurry. Jimmy Kimmel is the honorary mayor of the town of Dildo, which I think is in Newfoundland.
I think you'll find it's in Newfoundland.
Well, why have they spelled it Newfoundland then?
There are many places around the world where it's written one way and pronounced another way, such as Newcastle. Or Newcastle, I can't even say it now.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
Is it time for our listicle?
It is. That's why we talked about Canada.
Ah, so our listicle this week is 19 places in Canada with weird names.
We are... How many are we quickly running through?
There are 19, but if we get bored, there'll be less.
Okay, 19 of what?
Canadian towns with silly names.
Okay, go for it. Well, Newfoundland is famous for silly names.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this, and we know we do have listeners in Canada,
Canada.
in Toronto, please let us know if it's Newfoundland or Newfoundland.
Isn't it Ottawa?
And in fact, you know what? If you resend us in WhatsApp an audio file, we will try to put it into the next edition of the program. Or
Number
show or
1,
pod.
I'll start.
Go on.
There is a town in Saskatchewan called...
Saskatoon.
We're never going to get to the end of the almost 40-minute quiz show. There is a town called Big Beaver.
You've seen these before. I'm just looking for the first time. The next one in Quebec.
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 I'm going to take off your other finger in a minute.
So shall I pronounce this one the way you do it? This is San Luis du Haha.
St. Louis de Haha.
Yes.
Right. The next one in Newfoundland,
Newfoundland
is called Happy Adventure. And on the way out of Happy Adventure, I think there's an exit called Happy Ending.
Oh, no. And as we mentioned before, Jimmy Kimmel is the honorary mayor of Dildo, Newfoundland.
Vulcan, Alberta.
Is it not Alberta?
It's not that one funny. Oh, the next one's quite good. This one's yours.
There is a place called Blow Me Down. And they actually have within it in Newfoundland, Blow Me Down Provincial Park.
And if you visit Blow Me Down, you're not very far away from Come By Chance.
These have got to have been made up. But the audience is going to love this one because we fully know that they can't possibly
This must
achieve...
be after Come By, yeah.
Yes, they can't possibly achieve climax Saskatoon. There's somebody at the door.
We might need to take a pause
keep
here.
talking because we think pizza has arrived.
There's a tip by the front door as well. There is a town called Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump in Alberta. Shall I repeat that one?
No, that's fine.
Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump.
And the next one is Dude Chillin' Park in British Columbia.
In Northwest Territories, there is a place called Ragged Ass Road.
Oh, no. Why do I get to do this? In Ontario, I thought Ontario was sort of like the normal, boring centre of Canada. They have a place called Balls Falls.
And also in Ontario, there is Punky Doodle's Corners.
The next one is... I'm going to ask our guest, actually, one of our guests, to prove we have a guest here, to actually read this one out.
Swastika.
Swastika in Ontario.
Oh, this is one I'm never going to go to. Sober Island in Nova Scotia.
Eyebrow in Saskatoon.
Shag Harbour in Nova Scotia.
It's really not fair that we can see these before people are hearing them. And in Alberta, the Sexsmith.
Nameless Cove in Newfoundland.
Actually, that was the last one.
Excellent. Should we go for a break? Question number 4. And I've actually finished my cocktail now. I'm on to cider.
Which side of her?
Thatcher's. Carrying on the Tory theme.
Yep.
Question number 4.
I would like to say that this is the Somerset cider as opposed to the cloudy.
Oh, I don't like the cloudy.
The cloudy, it's not too bad. It's not too dry. It's okay.
Maybe after I finish the...
Okay.
Am I on? Somerset cider. Yeah, lovely.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Question number 4. What do Tupac Shakur, Sid Vicious, and Mark Chapman have in common?
Okay, Tupac whatever is either going to be somebody who's a Weight Watcher or an alleged musician, and I'm probably going to say an alleged musician. Who were the other two?
Sid Vicious.
Sid Vicious was an alleged musician.
Well, more than alleged, he was.
Well, I would not call that music, being the conservative type that I am. And who was the third one?
Mark Chapman.
Mark Chapman was a killer.
He probably agrees with you because he tried to kill him. Oh, no, he did kill a musician.
Yeah, he killed a musician. Although, do you know what? It's funny. John Lennon was never my fave.
Yeah, a bit modern.
Yeah.
Bit too upbeat and hip-hop for you.
Yeah, and all the glasses.
Yeah, you're more Perry Como, aren't you?
Absolutely. I like the cardigans and the rocking chairs.
Andy Williams.
I'm even more niche than that. I'm Val Doonican.
Oh, I loved Val Doonican.
Yeah, anyway, that rules out 3/4 of our audience who are listening
Both
to this
of
from
them.
Canada, yes. Anyway, I have absolutely no idea what connects them.
Okay, Tupac Shakur, who was an assassinated rapper, so you're right, he was a musician.
Okay. Well,
Sid Vicious, who was the drummer for the Sex Pistols, and
Yes.
also dead. And Mark Chapman all served time in Rikers Island Prison in New York.
so the
which
connection
made
is
the
two
news
of them are dead.
No, they all served time in Rikers Island Prison in New York.
Are you mansplaining?
I'm trying to do it very slowly because it's clear you've almost had as much cider as me.
Yes, indeed. Anyway,
So this week, Rikers Island made the news because the famous prison is being closed by the New York Department of Corrections, and they're bringing in a much more modern prison.
which brings us beautifully on to,
Our review section.
we've done hotels,
We've done tourist attractions,
restaurants,
restaurants,
and so now we're doing...
prisons.
And we'd like to thank the member of our audience, our live audience, for suggesting this round, even if he refuses to come to the microphone.
Review number 1 is of Folsom Prison. There we
That was
go.
good.
Thank you. 3 stars. Asked when checkout time was, I was told at 12:15. It seemed oddly specific, but when I called over the guard to let her know I was ready to check out, she refused to let me. Had to escalate it to the manager and Mr. Warden. He informed me that checkout time was actually 12 to 15. Wish the front desk had been clearer. Food service is prompt, but the quality is low. No room service unless you get some sort of solitary package or something. I wasn't interested in paying the premium. Bed seemed to be cheap quality, but the toilets and sinks are updated stainless steel, which has a certain modern flair to the place. Gym area was fairly crowded and had very specific hours, and the large security fences made it seem obvious that we weren't in a great area of town. Excessive security presence had the same effect.
So-
Sorry, I've got pizza now.
It's a way of mopping up the alcohol. So, from Clark County Jail, I got tired of showering alone. Oh, yes. They accompanied my needs during my stay here. Usually you have to pay over-the-top rates for this in Las Vegas. Now, the rest of this one's fairly dull, but I think that gets the point across.
I was a guest at the King County Bed and Breakfast in 2001. Not the most welcoming place I've ever visited. Both the bed and the breakfast were well under par. Why my rectum needed to be inspected before I was offered my lovely jumpsuit and plastic sandals is beyond me. I shan't return. Shall we finish off with Rikers Island?
We certainly can, where I served 25 years and was innocent. The warden made me do everyone's taxes and lie on the books. Luckily, my friend Red smuggled a rock hammer, and eventually I escaped through the sewer pipes. Never again. And for the final part of this week's edition of the almost 30-minute quiz show, I'm actually falling off my chair in the joys of a bottle of cider. Mark, question number 5. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
It's got to be the chicken. Otherwise, you couldn't lay an egg.
It's got to be the egg, otherwise the chicken wouldn't be.
Yeah, but who laid the egg?
You'd have to be very drunk to lay an egg. I can understand
You'd
somebody...
be even drunker if you laid a chicken.
I know, no, a chicken's easier to lay than an egg.
Not in the clubs that I go to.
I'm very confused. Anyway, our live audience is just shocked.
Again, we could go on with the answer for that one. It's sort of kind of circular.
It's circular, yes.
I have been asked to point out by the audience that we made a mistake in the last section, and the last review that we did was not Rikers Island. It was, in fact, for Shawshank Prison in Maine, for those of you that didn't quite work that one out. Our final news story is the story of...
When we say news, it's very...
It's news.
Oh, all right.
It made it to the
It
was in a newspaper. And
was it the National Enquirer?
There's no such thing as fake news. There was the story of the fast food... Oh, God.
Fast food. How many have you had?
I think about 3. I think.
Do you know what I can do with this? Listen to this. This is my cider bottle.
Those of you that have listened to the first 4 episodes, I really apologise for what we're doing.
Yes.
What came first?
The
Or was
bottle
it-
in
was that the
cider
joke?
or the cider in the bottle? I can't cope.
Okay.
Members of our audience are being very naughty.
The almost 50-minute quiz show. It's supposed to get in your mouth. And the cider. The fast food loving bride has a bespoke bouquet made from chicken nuggets. I've got florets again. Anyway, there was a story about a woman who had a bouquet for a wedding made of chicken nuggets, and she ate it at the reception. I can't read it.
Is that the whole thing?
Pretty much. It was a slow news week. But it was this lovely flowery thing, and all the petals were made of chicken nuggets.
All right. So, if you were getting
She
married...
loved chicken nuggets more than her husband, apparently.
If you were getting married for the 6th time, and you wanted to do something...
6 mother-in-laws.
If you wanted to do something outrageous at your wedding or make a statement, what would it be?
No, I just can't even picture getting married again. I love my wife so much that I never would contemplate. And my son is in the audience, so obviously...
Is he the little bugger who tried to ruin it at the start of the podcast?
He was, so no, I'm not going there.
Marriage is a very interesting institution.
But I would remember not to pull facial expressions while the father of the bride makes a speech. Because apparently that gets picked up on video behind him and causes an argument for 20 years.
Yes. Would it be perchance that you did that then?
I did.
I have to say that when I was happily married, or married happily under under the stars and all that, that my prospective father-in-law did make one of the longest speeches. I mean, you think about the Gettysburg Address, that was like peanuts compared to what I had to stand there for and look very serious about. Anyway, do you think we should say thank you and goodbye?
Thank you and goodbye.